If you're not going to follow the law, it's time for people to start having consequences. For far too long, we've allowed this president and his underlings to continue to obstruct. And when we lose the rule of law in America, it's not just a concept, it's everything. It allows free markets, free ideas, and a freedom to dream. And we don't want to look like countries that don't have a rule of law.
So, Congressman, you referred to Elon Musk as a fascist at some point and alluded to him being a national security threat. Do you see that more of a national security threat, you sleeping with a Chinese spy, than transparency in the federal government? What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that? What's Fang think of that?
What are you doing?
I mean, what's fascistic about exposing government corruption? I mean, I know you're just at dinner now with a bunch of lobbyists. You know, they're buying you a bunch of booze, and you know that's awfully nice. I know you were talking about, maybe finding somebody else because you only like to fuck people that are tens. I just heard that one too. So what do you think about that? Do you want to comment on any of it? Elon Musk is a national security threat, but you sleeping with a Chinese spy is not. Is that correct? You don't want to comment on that at all? Looks like guilty is charged.
Boy. So we got to talk about Trump deranged Democrat Eric Swalwell, a.k.a. Eric Swallowswell, right? Eric Swallowswell is facing accountability, right? He is finding out that nobody is above the law because, he was obsessed with President Trump and the criminals in the White House.
Federal troops and federal law enforcement are coming to a federalized Washington, D.C. The stated reason? Crime is on the rise. Well, I don't know if that's true, but I know there are way more criminals in Washington, D.C. today than there were back in early January. And there's a direct line between a 34-count convicted felon coming to a Northwest neighborhood, having other cases that disappeared that he should have been held accountable for, bringing his 7 bankruptcy and his network of other convicts and thieves and thugs into our community. Yes, there are more criminals in Washington, D.C. Most of them are in the Trump administration. So it's pretty rich that Donald Trump thinks that he should be focused outside the White House on reducing crime. He's got a real problem in his own house. So why don't you, Donald Trump, keep your side of the street clean before you start federalizing and sending troops into other neighborhoods in our nation's capital? This is wrong. It's a complete waste of resources. And it's time that Democrats stand up and make it clear. When we are in power, when we have the White House, the Senate, and the House, again, we will make sure D.C. becomes a state. We should learn a harsh lesson here because in April 2021, Speaker Pelosi passed in the House D.C. statehood. It was blocked in the Senate. Of course, it was blocked by Republicans, but there were a handful of Democrats who were not willing to break the filibuster. And now we find D.C. under the control of a wannabe, aspiring dictator. That's a hard lesson to learn, but it's one that we must learn. In the meantime, as Donald Trump threatens to federalize other cities, we can't be quiet. We have to keep going to the courts. We have to keep going to the town squares and the town halls. And in Congress, we have to show a fight because we are in an existential crisis for our country. And I promise, when Democrats have the subpoena power, we will make sure to shine a light and bring justice to and hold to account the real criminals in Washington, D.C., the Trump administration.
Right, except he should have checked Congress because apparently we have some criminals in Congress, including himself.
This breaking just moments ago, Fox can now confirm that California Democrat Congressman Eric Swalwell has been criminally referred to the Department of Justice accused of mortgage fraud. Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy reporting live on this breaking news on Eric Swalwell from the North Lawn. Hey, Peter.
Martha, as I was walking up here to do a hit on a different topic, I got a call from an administration official filling us in that Eric Swalwell, the Democratic California congressman, has indeed been referred to the Justice Department by Bill Pulte, who is the head of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac right now, because he is accused of making false or misleading statements on a mortgage application. We believe that this pertains to a $1.2 million house that Swalwell has in the Washington, D.C. area. Swalwell has already responded. Part of his very long statement says, as the most vocal critic of Donald Trump over the last decade, and as the only person who still has a surviving lawsuit against him, the only thing I am surprised about is that it took him this long to come after me. Like James Comey and John Bolton, Adam Schiff and Lisa Cook, Letitia James, and the dozens more to come, I refuse to live in fear in what was once the freest country in the world. Now, Swalwell has not been charged with anything. This is a criminal referral. Basically, a government agency thinks that they spotted something that is possibly illegal on mortgage documents from Swalwell. The Justice Department will now review these documents to see if a prosecutor believes that charges are worthy in this case, and then we would go from there in the judicial process. Martha.
That Eric Swalwell is apparently under some form of referral by Bill Pulte based on a reporting of a primary residence in Washington, D.C., as opposed to California, where his congressional district is. And I will say, for members of Congress, this is a particularly fraught topic because, as you know, if you were to ask many members of Congress, where is your primary residence, that would be a very challenging question to answer. Many of them established their households in Washington, D.C., and at the same time, their home base is wherever their state is. And so that is the same allegation that has been leveled against Senator Adam Schiff, also of California, and also a long-term political adversary of the president's. It's not lost on me that both Congressman Swalwell and Senator Schiff were members of the impeachment committees or the groups of impeachment managers who went to the Senate on each of Trump's 2 impeachment trials during his first term. Senator Schiff on the first, Congressman Swalwell on the second. Congressman Swalwell also a plaintiff in a lawsuit that seeks to recover for damages done to people like him on January 6th. And he himself has a statement out saying that he will not be cowed by any investigation into him, that he has long expected it. But like Letitia James and Jim Comey and Adam Schiff before him, he believes that he is a target of the president's.
Yeah. So you seen that, you heard that. Okay. Eric Swalwell is being referred to the DOJ for possible mortgage fraud allegations. And this is somewhat similar to Letitia James in the sense that this guy apparently doesn't even live in his home state, okay, let alone his district, because apparently the congressman names the Washington, D.C. home as his principal residence and has no California address. Now, again, keep in mind, this guy is a California representative. And as a representative of California, you would think that he would need an actual address in California. He would need to live in California to represent California, right? His district. But apparently he does not have that. So let's read here. California Representative Eric Swalwell has faced a barrage of controversy in recent years from his alleged ties to the Chinese spy Fang Fang to his removal from the House Intelligence Committee over national security concerns to his infamous on-air mishap during a 2019 interview on Hardball with Chris Matthews. Now, again, everybody should be familiar with the allegations against Eric Swalwell that he was out here banging, right? Fang Fang, okay? A Chinese spy, okay? Eric Swalwell. He likes putting white sauce in his lo mein, okay? And his shrimp fried rice. I'm about to start calling Eric Swalwell lo mein, right? That's what I'm about to start calling him. Eric lo mein Swalwell. Oh, man, this guy. Now, a new revelation raises even more questions about Swalwell's integrity and eligibility to serve in Congress. Despite serving as a congressman from California's 15th district and claiming hometown Livermore on his official House profile, Swalwell has declared his Washington, D.C. property as his principal residence. Under Article 1, Section 2 of the United States Constitution, members of Congress must be inhabitants of the state they represent at the time of their election. In California, maintaining this inhabitancy means holding tangible, verifiable ties to the state, such as owning or renting a residence, registering to vote, paying state income taxes, and possessing a California driver's license. California Elections Code 349 goes even further. a domicile is defined as the place in which his or her habitation is fixed and the place where a person intends to return and remain. Yeah, so if this guy's true domicile is in Washington, D.C., which, again, this is his $1.2 million house home that he has in Washington, D.C., again, for a person that's fighting for the working class and middle class, having a $1.2 million home is not too bad, right? For those people who are, going after the rich, right? That's fighting on behalf of regular everyday people, right? This is, the same argument that Democrats use, right? But anyways, if this guy, his actual home is in D.C., that's his principal residence, then technically he's ineligible to be a representative for the state of California, right? Again, this is the same thing that we talked about with Letitia James. Well, Letitia James claimed that her principal residence was actually in Virginia, but yet she is the attorney general of the state of New York. You can't have that at the same time. Like, both of those things can't be true at the same time, right? Your principal residence can't be in another state when you're currently the attorney general of another state, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. Same thing with Eric Swalwell. Eric Swalwell can't be a representative of California while at the same time having a principal residence in Washington, D.C. That means that he's actually a resident of D.C. If he's a resident of D.C., then he can't represent California, right? I mean, this is just common sense. This is just common sense. But my gut feeling is that a lot of these members of Congress do this in order to get more favorable terms on their loans, right? So they move to Washington, D.C. when they get elected, and then they get a house, they buy a house in D.C., and then on their mortgage applications, they lie and say, oh, well, this is my primary home, right? Even though, again, they're supposed to be representatives of the state that they're from, so they're supposed to reside in, like, their principal residence is supposed to be in the state that they're from, right? But they say, no, on their mortgage documents, no, this is not a secondary home, which would be subject to maybe a higher interest rate. No, this is my primary residence, which could be subject to a lower interest rate, and they lie on their mortgage applications in order to get more favorable loans, right, to pay less. Yeah, so that's why you're seeing a lot of this stuff, and I'm not surprised because CNN told us that everybody is guilty of this. Apparently, everybody commits mortgage fraud.
Aside for a second, what Tish James, and again, we're still getting the details, but if it's related to this mortgage issue, I mean, this is something that everyone in America, or many people at least, if you're lucky enough to be able to buy a house in America, you deal with this, right? The federal government doesn't go after all of these people for doing this.
Yeah, it's amazing how nobody is above the law until it comes time for Democrats to face accountability. When Democrats face accountability, now all of a sudden it's, well, see, everybody does this, right? So it's not that big of a deal. Okay, it doesn't matter if they broke the law. Apparently you can be above the law if everybody does it. Which what she's actually saying is that, yeah, all of my friends, all the elites in D.C., they do this, right? Because, again, they're in and out of D.C., so a lot of them, again, they want to stay in D.C., they want to be there. But, again, technically, they're not really residents of D.C., but they have to spend a significant amount of time there. They buy homes there because of that reason, and then they lie on their mortgage applications, and that's why this is so prevalent, right? This is why you're having all these Democrats get charged, right, referrals to the DOJ for mortgage fraud. Because, again, this is something that's super common, okay? These politicians are cheating, right? They're cheating on their mortgage applications. So, again, it's really funny because the media will try to poo-poo this and say, oh, this is just Trump going after his political opponents. But, again, you said that nobody was above the law, right? Nobody's above the law. This is what they were saying when Alvin Bragg concocted some fake charges against Trump, right? Went all out of his way to bend the rules, okay, to the best of his ability in order to charge Trump, and they pretended like that was legitimate. That was totally legit, right? In the bogus hush money case. Now, all of a sudden, when it comes to mortgage fraud, oh, well, see, everybody does this, right? It's so common. The federal government, they never go after people for this. Why are they going after Eric Swalwell? Okay? All of them are guilty of this. This is why they're saying it. Failure to maintain a legitimate residence in California could expose Swalwell to legal, ethical, and electoral repercussions. A false declaration of residency risks tax violations, misrepresentation to lenders, and challenges to his eligibility for re-election. Yeah, so there is no record of Eric Swalwell having a home in California, okay? The address apparently that is tied to him in California is not a place that he stays. Okay, it belongs to somebody else. So again, there are real questions about whether or not this dude lied, right, on his mortgage application. Okay, is he actually a resident of California, right? Is he actually eligible to be a representative? Politically, the revelation of a Washington, D.C. principal residence undermines Swalwell's credibility and fuels accusations of hypocrisy, especially since Swalwell rose to power by attacking his predecessor, Pete Stark, for being, quote, out of touch with the district due to Stark's residency outside of California. During the 2012 campaign, Swalwell's mailers mocked Stark as missing from his constituents. Now Swalwell himself may be the one who's going completely missing from the state he's supposed to represent. Yeah, not surprising. Not surprising at all. Not surprising at all. All of these Democrats are hypocrites at the end of the day. Swalwell's inability to maintain a California home may stem from his personal financial mismanagement. His 2025 financial disclosure report paints a bleak picture. Despite earning $174,000 per year for 13 years in the U.S. Congress, Swalwell has failed to pay down his student loans, remains mired in credit card debt, and has even cashed out his pension. Yeah, so it seems like he's not the most financially literate, right? He's making $174,000 a year, living in a $1.2 million home. I'm not sure if that's a smart decision financially, right? A $1.2 million home earning $174,000 per year. I'm not sure if that really makes sense, okay? I'm not sure if that's smart. But then again, I'm not surprised. Eric Swalwell has always been a sucker, right? This is how he got trapped in a honeypot, right, with a Chinese spy because he's not very responsible. Apparently, again, he got a lot of student loan debt. And, you know, part of the reason why is because he's, again, irresponsible. This is why they want the Democrats, Biden, to forgive student loans, because these people that they elect to Congress have student loan debt. And, yeah, they're not the most financially literate. Student loans remain between $50,000, $100,000, and credit card balances are still between $15,000 and $50,000 with both American Express and Chase Bank. Yeah, the math ain't mathing here, right? $174,000 a year, and that's before taxes. Living in a $1.2 million home, you got $50,000 to $100,000 in student loans, and your credit card debt is between $15,000 and $50,000. Yeah, that's not good, right? That's a bleak financial picture. Somebody needs to get this man a financial advisor because he has no idea what he's doing. Okay, this guy is he's in over his skis. He should not be a member of Congress. Is anybody, you know, surprised that these people just want to spend as much money as possible? Okay, that our country is in so much debt because the people running it are in debt, right? I mean, look at this guy. Okay, this guy is clearly not the most financially literate. So, for a sitting member of Congress, such persistent financial instability raises serious questions about judgment, responsibility, and ethics, but it could also explain why Swalwell can't afford to maintain a California home. Like Adam Schiff and Letitia James, who have faced scrutiny over conflicting primary residence claims, Swalwell has built his political brand on attacking Donald Trump. Well, yeah, that's all he got, because certainly Eric Swalwell hasn't done a damn thing in Congress, again, except attack Trump. So you got Letitia James, who has been charged, Adam Schiff, who is essentially going to be facing charges. An indictment could be coming. I believe that Adam Schiff has formed a legal counsel, so I think he's expecting to be charged. And there you have Eric Swalwell, who I think probably will be charged, probably will be indicted, especially if Adam Schiff gets indicted. This dude's going to get indicted too. And again, you got to love it, right? You got to love it. All of these individuals who claim that nobody's above the law, they're finding out. They're finding out the hard way that also applies to them. That also applies to them. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.